Hello, my name's Carole. I'm not in my sewing room today, I'm at the end of the garden, but you're joining me for the results of the Busy Bee Challenge number 3. So here we are at the end of the marvellous Busy Bee Challenge that we've done now for the last 3 months. It kind of coincided with the end of the Great British Sewing Bee TV programme in the UK. So just a quick recap before I show you my results of challenge number 3. Challenge number 1 was where we sent a pattern to another person. So I sent one to somebody, they sent one to me. Completely random pattern, so that was amazing. I made a blouse, which was a struggle in the beginning, but came out really successful. In fact, funnily enough, I wore it yesterday. So I am really pleased with that. Challenge number 2 was where we had to refashion something. And again, I was really pleased with what I did. I changed one of my daughter's old skirts into a top, and I wore that on holiday a couple of times, so I'm happy with that. Challenge number 3 was a little different for me. Now, challenge number 3 in the television programme would be a made to measure. And I was kind of gearing myself up for that because I had something in mind to make my husband. But no, challenge number 3 was different. Challenge number 3 was going to be where you had to choose a free pattern that you've never made before, and it was a bag, and it should reflect your personality. That for me absolutely threw me. I do make the odd bag, but I tend to do it with a proper pattern, with pattern pieces and whatever. I've done the odd thing like that now and again, but I'm not a massive fan of making bags and things because I just don't have the machine to cope. My machine, my Genome, barely copes with normal day sewing, let alone bags with layers. So I was a little bit hesitant, but I thought I'd have a go. So what did I choose in the end? Okay, so I thought, let me think. I want to choose a bag that almost a beginner can make, that they don't need any special machine, heavy duty machine, they can just make on a normal machine. Also, they don't need any hardware because very often a lot of these bag patterns, they want D-rings and special zips and special materials and things like that. So I thought, no, I'm going to keep it simple because at the end of the day, that kind of reflects my personality anyway. And I want a bag that's practical for me. I tend to have one bag for the winter and one bag for the summer. I'm not a bag swapping person. I can't be bothered to move all my stuff from one bag to another, purse and everything else and tissues, every time I want a different bag to match an outfit. That's just not me. I like being out and about. So it had to be something like that to reflect my personality. So I went online and I came across a Prima pattern. Now, Prima is a magazine that's been going for a long time in the UK. I remember having it when I was kind of newly married in the 80s. I used to love my Prima magazine. Had a bit of everything in it, cooking, crafts, sewing, and general stuff. But I came across a Prima magazine pattern for a rucksack. Now, it said simple, it said kind of beginner, so I thought this is the one for me. I have to tell you, it is a free pattern and my result came out okay, but the pattern, it leaves a lot to be desired. The pattern instructions are very sparse and really don't cover half of what they should cover. But it's a free pattern and you get what you get, don't you? I have got a finished result for you. Now, all the others are revealing theirs today, the 30th of September. I've had a sneak preview of a couple of them and I am almost embarrassed to show what I've made. But there we go. If this was a TV programme, somebody would have to be voted off at the end. And I think we know who that would be. But I'm not saying, oh, mine's terrible, everyone else is good. I honestly believed I could have done a better job, but I got what I got. So here is my finished rucksack. Now I have to say the fabric was given to me by a wonderful friend, and it was an old curtain sample that she didn't need and she didn't quite know what to do with it. And I must admit, I had it for a while, and I love travel, don't I? And it's maps, and it's got Galapagos, and it's got islands, it's got a compass. That is so me. I thought, suits my personality, tick. Rucksack, me, walking, definitely. And the good thing about this rucksack, it will fold completely down. Very often we go on holiday and I take a flight bag, but I don't necessarily want to use my rucksack as a flight bag. So we take sometimes a kind of fold down flat pack backpack, and this will be perfect that I can use. So it's very basic. It's got 2 straps on the back. There's I've just put them to my height because it's only me that's going to be using them, so I'm not going to alter them. It's got a flap on the front, I will come back to that in a minute, and a base. The pattern instructions were you were literally given a picture of the measurements that you had to cut out. I think I'll put a picture here, and that was it, really. That's all you were given. I'll go through a couple of the problems in the steps in the instructions in a minute. The main thing for me was you meant to just have a flap over the front. Now that will be annoying for me. So what I did at the end, I should have done it as I was going along and thinking about it, but what I did in the end was put a magnetic closure, which luckily I had. But of course it was a last minute thought. So where you put this side in and it's got the 2 levers that come the other side, I had to disguise that somehow. As you can just see it a little bit there, but I sewed a big button over the top. So A, I know actually where the magnetic closure is, and B, it disguises the afterthought of the closure. Another thing they said for you to do was to put drawstrings in either side on the seams. I didn't like that at all. It's going to be a real faff kind of closing it and then drawing the drawstrings together. So for the time being, I've kind of tried something different. I've inserted some elastic into it, some wide elastic. I don't think that's actually going to be a problem because you can stretch it and put stuff in, rather than having the drawstring where you have to lift the flap, undo the drawstrings and reverse when you close it up. So I'm going to try, for now, the elastic. I've left the seams open so I can change it and go back and do something different. But ideally I would have liked drawstrings at the front. So it is very basic, it is not lined in any shape or form. As I said, it's got a handle on the top and it fits me nicely. So there we go. Now where the pattern fell down for me on a couple of things, there's no pictures, no diagrams, it's just words. So that could, if you're used to following pictures and certainly YouTube tutorials, then I do not recommend this pattern. But it had things like these were cut out squares, and it just said sew and curve the edges as you sew, and then it didn't even really say trim off. It also didn't tell, when it told you to sew round and right sides together and flip out, it didn't even really tell you that. And it didn't tell you how many sides you had to sew. So I sewed the top along as well and left a gap and flipped it, and yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter because I kind of know what I was doing, but if you didn't, then you will be really, really confused on step number 2, because step number 1 was just cutting it out. So I think that was actually quite hard to create a curve. I did use my French curve. Before I sewed it, I used my French curve to mark a line and then I sewed, and then of course you've got to trim all this off, but it doesn't really say to do that. Another thing I added, because I wasn't sure about, they tell you to do the straps, where you they told you to fold in 1 centimetre and then sew the edge. Well, I don't like just one edge being sewn, so I top stitched the other side as well. Just kind of looks a bit more finished that way. And the last thing, if I'm going to gripe about anything, was stitching the base. Of course, you've stitched the sides and you've just got 2 sides, and then you have this rectangular base that you have to kind of fit to these 2 sides. and that it requires quite a bit of jiggering around because it says just to curve the base to fit. Yeah, I mean, it's fine for me, but a beginner, no, they wouldn't like to do that. So you kind of, I mean, it didn't work out too badly at all, but again, it's fiddly, but that's what you get with a free pattern, isn't it? And the one that isn't a PDF download. You're just kind of on your own. You've cut your squares and then you're on your own. Anyway, after all my griping, I have quite a nice simple backpack, which I am really pleased with, to be honest, and I absolutely love the fabric. Thank you so much to my friend for giving it to me. So much better than using it for cushions as I was going to use it for, and I've got a little bit left as well, so maybe I can make like a purse or something at some point. But yeah, that's the results of my challenge number 3. Now, of course, we're all releasing our results today, so please go over to the other channels. Here we go. They are GeminiStitches. I will put the links down below in the YouTube description box because I'm going to forget the correct terms and names, because a lot of these YouTube creators use a different sort of handle on their Instagram accounts. So we've got GeminiStitches, Sequin Girly Creates, One Girl and Her Machines, Sewn by Sarah, and Sew Sparkle with Sam. Hope I've got that right. So thank you so much for joining us on what has been a really good few months, working out all these challenges, getting to know some new YouTubers, and certainly getting to know some new viewers. Who knows what we'll do next year? But as I said earlier, I think it's me that's going to be voted off, but I'm quite happy with that. Someone has to go, and I've had an absolute ball. So thank you to Christine at GeminiStitches and Sam from Sequin Girly Creates for starting all this, and I do hope you've enjoyed watching at home and maybe played along as well. So I will see you all again soon, and I think I'll go off for a walk with my backpack.